Jake has just woken up. He needs to print out my final version of the PDF based on some suggestions, which were really, really key suggestions, I think, in clarifying as best we can at this point our teaser to get out in people's hands. And there are those of you who have been knocking on our door in the community tab of YouTube, begging for this thing to get done so you can get it in your hands. And thank you for that encouragement. But where we're at, just to recap, last episode, we got into number 4's edits going back and forth. So in that, we had a bunch of really good ideas. I applied those ideas Friday and Saturday. And Saturday afternoon, I was able to get that to Jake, which was this one, which I'm referring to as number 5. Jake was able to get back to me last night, and he gave me yet again some repeat suggestions, but even refining some of the older suggestions. I was able to go ahead and make them. Jake was actually able to do this here new background of text, the back matter page, which has our QR code. I'll hold it here if you want to scan. I'll bring it up a little closer. You can scan that. It'll go to the Turbo podcast on YouTube. But I'm loving this, Jake. When this came through an email and it popped up, I was blown away. And also too, I obviously had a better understanding for what it is that you were suggesting. So that is now included in our semi-quasi finalized. I think really at this point, you had said it right before we had gone online. You were pretty good with what, I had sent you yesterday afternoon, but even with your suggestions, some of these things are just going to have to lay themselves out in waiting for future pages, or just as they are comments. Technically, we're going to have to figure them out. So just to go through the 8 pages and everything that I was able to accomplish, and obviously even the back matter page having your contribution, I just want to do a real quick flip through. And then I want to return to the 3 things that I think we're just going to have to hold off on and really investigate in the next 6 pages. So I am, if you can notice, dear viewers, I have printed mine on cream colored 11 by 17 paper. It's why I have my camera a little grayer than brighter, because I want to be able to see the contrast. Because when you order a copy of the Turbo Teaser pages 1 through 6, you're not going to have that stark whiteness, which is on purpose. We want you to have a more readability without the stark contrast. So with some of the things that we were going on about were the sort of the difference in talking. In other words, what happens in stylistically the narration box to the vocalizing box, and then we even have over here, you can see we have these are the rounded edge bubbles of what Turbo is narrating and saying. And then one of the additions we did, and this is the first one that comes in, is I ended up adding these jagged boxes to the announcer, which over here on page 4, you see just his mouth, this great guy. And so he ends up having not only the jagged lines, but I dropped in a 10% screen behind it inside to once again cut away who's saying what in a visual way, and it hopefully not be too confusing. But we are finding that there are some little nuances and some pieces that we would want to see differently. But I was able to get in the turbo pit fighter. You had requested that I make this a little lighter over here, bring this back up in the front. What else did we have?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty much.
it's so easy when you're the art director because you're just like, oh, just
Yeah.
do this, do this, and then
Yeah.
right, you're just seeing things, visualizing it, and imagining it, but then actually getting it all done is an actual thing. So reality happens, and so you're saying that we'll just put these off until the final printed thing or the next version or something.
Well, as we get to, so you had just the things that I didn't do anything about. You had said I would make the borders a lighter tint. This is for the bubbles that are around turbo thinking. So taste of blood, something else takes
Yeah.
over, something from long ago. I tried a couple of things, but then I did have to back up, dear art director, and say, what the hell is he saying? Because you get into, just some key wording like the best combination of lighter letters, darker backgrounds, but this might be different from panel to panel depending on values and the leading the eye principle. Maybe sometimes we do want the dialogue to pop compared to visuals. And we've been talking about this. So this wasn't anything like you just sprung on me. But in my anxiousness to just get this thing the hell over with and out of on the press and into the people's hands, I then backed up and went back to my years of dealing with art directors and realized, okay, I'm going to have to strategize and meet with the art director and sort of plead, like, can we make this happen in another time, or is this something that has to happen, and why, so on and so forth. But you
Yep.
know, we seem to have come to that place, in that. And, you are playing the art director, and it is because you have the primary vision. And not only primary vision in, let's say, the story, but storytelling. And then the other thing too, which I just want to add, this was a very popular way Jake and I worked. Jake had maybe an initial concept, or we came up with a concept together. Jake would go off and do something. He would put something in front of me, usually like script and layouts, like thumbnails, if you will. I would then do something, and this is, by the way, pre-internet. So I would FedEx him those pages or copies of them, and then Jake would maybe call me, or make some. Well, no, you used to call, and then you would make notes and then send them back to me, FedEx. I would give you some kind of,
By the
let's
way,
say,
oh yeah.
final version.
By the way, this is when we probably had FedEx from our job accounts because
Yes. Oh
no,
yeah.
because it was like $16 a pop just to send something
Yes.
FedEx. So you got
Yeah.
to be crazy sending stuff FedEx.
Yep. Yeah. So
but
and my point is, you would always bring it to a final place in Photoshop. Especially if it was like a colored piece, or something that was being, let's say, inserted into another magazine or a catalog, or whatever it was. So that was another thing that had come up for me, especially this morning, when I was making some little things happen, based on what you were suggesting last night. But having seen this, it just brought it all back to me. I was like, oh, that's right. So I almost wanted to just email you back a simple email reply saying, just do it yourself.
well,
But I
yeah. I
did
mean
it.
that. Right. Well, I mean that's the thing. When it depends who is got the final art in Photoshop, and then
Yes, and that's exactly where I was going.
because
Yeah.
it's not a big deal for me. Like if I like here, if I think, okay, I need these. these to be lighter
Yeah.
because I think it's confusing. Who's talking here?
Right.
So,
Right.
so we changed the shapes of these borders, and that
Yeah.
kind of helps. But, you still don't know, like, I mean, I think if these things are fading away and they're lighter, then it's like, it's less material. It's more like, ethereal. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's her thought. Like, it makes sense now. Because we didn't do like the cloud shape, the cloud shapes, right? Which is kind of like the comic vernacular. And so I just wanted to make it, and this didn't need to be a rule for the whole book, but I think you have to go panel by panel. So yeah, in Photoshop, I would just take the magic wand and I would grab this border and I would lighten it up, and then I would take the inside and change the thing. I mean, we've both been using Photoshop for a long time. It's not really hard. It's just if
Labor
we're
intensive.
think it's yeah if we're thinking
Still
on the
work.
same line. I think we just think I'm not we might be thinking, on different lines. That's all. So, it's good. It's good to get together and be able to talk it out. So yeah, I had those notes. I mean, just things you notice. Like it seems like the letters are bigger here than they are, and I thought we had a uniform size as far as the height. Also, there's not a lot of airspace in there, so I thought we spoke about that too. But yeah, it just depends who's got the final Photoshop files. If you kick them over to me, I could do it very easily. But
And
but um but I noticed that you're only at 300 DPI, um, and it should be tighter than that. Like I
well, that's
usually
at
work on.
13 by 19 inch. That my I'm at scan level page. That's 300 DPI, and then of course it gets knocked all the way down to 11 inches high. So the compression is almost twice, if not 80% on that. So I don't
Right.
think.
Well,
And then what I'm sending you it as a PDF is a 150 DPI inside that file that you're grabbing, unless you just drop it in. Like I drop PDFs into Photoshop, and then a screen comes up and it says choose your page, and then the output, whether you want black or white, CMYK, RGBD, and the DPI rate, so you can go all the way up to 600.
right. No, I think what you sent me was 300 DPI at 8.5, 11.
Now it was 150.
Well, when I brought it into Photoshop, that's what it told me.
Well, that, like I said, you probably
Cause
calibrated it that way when you brought the settings in. You can do that. All I'm saying is that because now there was something weird that there were two pages that were swapped, but when I went back to that file, um, or when I generated the file, I guess I just looked at it before I saved it, but then when it saved, it swapped those files, so I just never re-looked at it. So I apologize for
yeah,
that,
no,
but that was just having them all in one nifty PDF pocket.
right, okay. So what I did was I export in order to finish that back page. I just exported a page and I changed it, to a JPEG
There you
when it
go.
just says export as. Oh, and it does give you the resolution. Okay, so then
Yeah, yeah.
did I up interpolate it? Because if that's the case, then we've probably lost a lot of
No, no,
quality.
no. We were no. When I downloaded the file you sent to me, it was 300 DPI, and it was 8.5 by 11. So I
But
just I
but
just
if you're
chucked it
giving
in.
me if you gave me a PDF at 150 and then I just exported it to a JPEG at 300, then I think you lose a lot. That's why I'm
Well,
saying like it wasn't full resolution when I
well, what are
started
you
with.
seeing on the printouts right now? Because you were very animated last episode about the aesthetics of a punk rock flyer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you were making these photoshopped elements and the text and such. So And with my understanding of how the punk rock Photoshop flyer works, or the punk rock flyer works, is that there's a degradation in the multitude of multiplying of copies that are going through the Xerox machine. So
Huh?
there's a
Uh,
crappy looking version of it.
well, I just wanted to I just wanted to have some type styles here. You can see what we
Yeah,
did with the with
yeah,
all the
it's
type
great.
styles.
It's very
Yeah,
readable. Other than join us every Sunday on YouTube and then buckle up. They're just a bit. They are a bit not sharp. They're a bit fuzzy, but I'm assuming that because I can because there seems to be white over the top of this here. So I don't
right.
know what I
Yeah.
did,
Well,
but
I think well, for one thing, it's only at 300. I would keep that tighter. I know that when you're printing the and a comic is smaller than 8.511, it gets a little bit tighter. But I would
yeah,
always, I mean, I would say if these are going to be the final plates that we have for posterity and for future formats, um, that we should be working more than 300 DPI because what happens if you want to take something, make it a poster? What happens if you have a different format in the future? Digital, maybe, you have a deluxe digital version. People can zoom all the way in and see really fine detail. So I always just
yeah,
work at like, I would say at least 450, but, so it really depends, like who's holding the final Photoshop files, because, you can make different versions, but, nobody wants to duplicate the wheel. So, um, that's one thing I noticed. And yeah, I sent these notes. I guess, it might have not been um super clear, but what I was looking for were here was just make these lighter. These should be lighter, so that it's like more in her head, and and it also has more of a variation against the the announcer voice. I was worried that the announcer voice was really like fighting the art. I guess it was here, right? Because it's so dark that I think like it attracts the eye. You want people to spend a second here first and then, go reading it. So I was saying like, make a judgment call for each, like here and here, right? I think when you see all of this text, it's a lot of text. This panel right here, it's a lot of text. So, making it 100% dark is it's fighting the art and it's jumping out at the reader. So I would lay it back and make it blend more with the environment that it's in, right? So like this would be like more middle tones and this would be more middle tones. But I don't know. I have kind of like a feel for that when I'm in Photoshop, and it's hard to explain to another person. So,
right,
um,
right.
yeah, right.
I
So,
have
so
I have some experience with you, and I kind of get your aesthetic down at times, but at the same time, I still feel like it's a suggestion to see what it looks like because these are grand changes that we made based on suggestions of prior pages, where because this was a white wall, this was a white box, and it just had black text in there, and so it basically disappeared. And then there was this major focus of just this, Pit Fighter Turbo pounding the hell out of Peter Payne here. So we might have moved it up a little too high, but I still think there is uh, a good contrast in between the two elements, and then we can go from there. So, one of the things I also want to say, in getting product out is, rushing it's one thing, and I do have a tendency to rush product out because I really do want to get the reactions from people. Now, sometimes the reaction is when you rush things out, they don't buy it, because it looks extremely rushed out. I can say with confidence, and I believe a lot of our viewers would back me as well as you up on this, is that this is very, very well done. This whole thing is so well done, from the story, word talking, to the pages laid out, to pencil, to ink, to the gray value that I'm adding as an artist. By the way, did you notice I got rid of the Photoshop liked alien? Was it anti-alias and the dots? And I'll show you how I did it.
Mhm.
Oh no! So I went back to one of my other previous scans, printed it out, cut it out, printed it out, gave a little graphite shading, then scanned it, and then cut and pasted into Photoshop. So I believe that's exactly what you were looking for, and it does make it work a little bit better. But the thing I also realized was um, it really like sharpened this panel into a little bit more than what was happening, in the panel preceding. So that was kind of interesting how that worked. But with that being said, as as I suggested, we do a turbo teaser, which was a zine, home hand printed comic book. Turbo teaser pages 1 through 6 is just to get it out there. But what we also found is a lot of questions. And I just feel, and I'm hoping you'll agree with me, that we have come to a great point to release this and then go from there, in the way that we have brought up, especially text, how the lettering is going to get embedded or inset to the comic book pages, the lining, the spacing, the fonts being used, whether we're still going to use Quark or move over to Photoshop. These are things that we're definitely going to gain. But we've given ourselves, and we were allowed to get a preview, and reestablishing ourselves from having stepped away from Turbo for 20 years. I just can't express how pleased I am with this, and I'm hoping you can agree with me. And we can say right here and now, Jake, that we are ready to get this into the people's hands. What do you say, Jake?
Yeah, definitely.
Yay!
Kurt was bringing up something before about ADD versus OCD,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
last week I recommended to anybody making a comic to do what we did here and just bite off a little chunk of it, go through a process, where you're going all the way through to the printing, and mostly when as it pertains to dialogue, but whatever your style is, whatever your inking is, whatever it all is, uh, bring it all the way to the end for a couple of pages before you go back and do the whole thing,
yeah,
because you don't
yeah.
want to discover like, oh, I need to be going back all the way to the beginning now and changing all the word balloons. Oh, I had to change all the letters. Do it, make all your mistakes. Do all your experimentation, A B A B A B. Do that all in the first couple of pages. And because what we just did by making this little teaser, um, you could hear us talking about it, right? All these little technical things, like like I thought we were at a higher resolution. Yeah, kick over. Yeah, give me the Photoshop file. I'll take it. I'll do this stuff myself. We have all these things to work out. And it's great to have like two different perspectives on it, two different like ways of looking at it. There's also, the Kurt is also like more of a taskmaster,
Yeah.
because I'm the one with the OCD, so I would go back in and I would say, oh, we're introducing some new names here. I want to make this super clear, so I would go in, and zoom in all the way and make sure that no letter is touching any other letter because I want to make it um, and Kurt's like, well, that's great, but let's do that on the final one. Let's get this thing out so that we're not like, you know, stopping, the timelines, here. So, that's completely reasonable too. And, we know that about each other, and I know that about myself. But yeah, just looking at this thing, like, um, when you have OCD like I do, um, I'm very hard on myself, and I always go back in, and always make things better and better and better. And then I just wait for like a sign from above to say, okay, this is done. My family says, okay, we gotta go. Like wrap
Yeah.
it up. um, right here, like I had sent to Kurt a note. I don't know if it was clear, so he probably didn't understand it. But I was saying,
What?
like, right here we have some individual lines. The top line's fine, the bottom line is fine, but all these other lines in the middle need to be kicked over because I made this word balloon the weirdest shape, and when I gave
Right.
him the text, it was all
Oh,
automatically
I
sent
see
by
what.
the
Okay,
computer.
okay. I see what you're talking about now. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, yeah, so that's like something that you just grab with your magic lasso and you pull it over.
yeah.
But
Right,
when you do
right,
that, you have to have the background color set to whatever that tint is inside the word balloon. Otherwise, you're going to get these kind of weird shapes where it kicked over if your background color is set to white. So all those things just come with being an experienced Photoshop user. But yeah, no, I think it's good that you're cracking the whip and that we're finishing here and that we're moving on.
yeah.
And all these great things that we can save for the final printed version. Nobody is ever gonna notice, right? It's just, I mean,
It's true.
maybe subliminally, they notice stuff like that. But that's what I'm all about, is making this a subliminal experience, where things are easy to read, they're not distracting. It's like if you notice something is there, then if you see something and it takes you out of the story, that's when it could have been, a smoother experience. So it's like, oh no, you just read that because I'm looking at the pictures and I'm reading the words. That's it, right? And you notice that when we're doing our flip throughs and we're doing our other series, the comics that influence, that's the kind of stuff that I get distracted by, right? Because I'm looking at the craft and the technique, and I'm just, you know, I'm speaking to my students, really. I'm speaking to all the people out there that are making comics, and I love great comics when it's done seamlessly, and all of these things are second nature, but everybody's human, so everybody has different styles, and I think at our age and seeing so many comics, we do have a good idea of what makes a good comic and the nuts and bolts of it, the technical stuff. So, um, that's what we're here for. We're here to make our comic as an example for others, and then when we do the comics that influence, which is the next segment that we're going to tape, we're reviewing and critiquing, the works of people that we love, and sometimes it's, reviewing stuff that is not perfect, and we talk about why. So, that's what you guys are hearing here.
Well, the other part of our compromise, because I am going to title this video "The Power of Compromising Between OCD and ADD," because I do have ADD, which is my brain leaps constantly to other things to get things done. Now, I have a sense of professionalism, and if I didn't, I would not have been making money or getting where it is. But there is a place where I get like completely, uh, uh,
Anxious.
I don't want to say depressed. Yeah, it's more like
Oh,
an anxiousness where it's like, well, who am I trying to please? Am I trying to please the art director? Now it's you're my partner. Once again, we reestablished our working process. I think very well too. Or are we trying to get it out to people to hear what they have to say? So what I want to say right here and now, Jake, is I want to give these lovely turbo nuts that stay with us and hit every video a bonus, which is we're going to end this video in the next minute. So, because the last 5 or 6 episodes were an hour and a half long, and I think we've said everything we're going to say about this, but we do need to start cutting a promo about how you the reader and future Turbonaut by purchasing a copy of Turbo Teaser pages 1 through 6. So with that being said, I want to say thank you to Jake for working with me, being the opposite, because I think I also have an extremely different sense of style, if you will. And that also comes out in our comics that influence talk as well as here. So, but we're doing something we find nobody else on YouTube as podcasters are doing, which is we are doing comic book collaboration. We have gotten together, we've split the duties in half, and we're making a comic book. And I have to say, I'm impressed because it is very tough. You had brought up in a couple of episodes ago, it's like musicians. And I've always been astounded by musicians because that just seems to be crazy how 2 people, 4 people, 16 people get together and make music. But I believe our first single is ready for release. That being said, Jake, let's let these people get back to buying them. There'll be a video following this video that'll explain how to get a hold of it and all the nuances that go with it. So, Jake, do you have anything else to leave with these people?
No, check out the Turbo Teaser and check out our other series, Comics That Influence, where we do flip throughs of really cool comics.
Cool. All right, Jake. I'll see you in the promo.
All right, man.